guys, welcome back to another episode of the Whiskey Diaries. My name is Martin Lang and today we're going to be talking about a 30-year-old whiskey, Talisker. Now, Talisker is a distillery. We did the 41-year-old previously. It was established, a little bit of history on Talisker itself. It was established in the 1830s. They are still the only distillery in the Isle of Skye, and they went through, like many distilleries at the time, they went through many hands. In the 1960s, they got a little bit of a fire, so they had to rebuild everything again, and they installed perfectly replicas of the old pot stills. Now, initially, when Talisker first started, Talisker was being distilled 3 times. Then in the 1920s, when it became more like traditional double distilling. Since then, obviously, they just kept the double distilling. There's a very particular feature about the swan necks of the distillers itself. They have some coils inside that makes like basically a reflux. What it does is just like some of the spirits actually condensates back into the spirit still and actually gets redistilled again. So it adds a lot of character to the whiskey in itself. The whiskey, the Talisker, all of the bottles are between 18 to 22 ppm. So it's a medium smoky whiskey. But for some reason, the whiskey itself, like as you would know, tastes a lot more smoky than just like almost at the same smoke level as Ardbeg or something like that they are like 30-35 ppm. Now, this bottle is actually bottled at 45.8%, the same way that most Taliskers as well. Talisker does a lot of non-estagement, but then this is part of the limited releases. So they do, there's a Talisker 10, then there's a Talisker 18, then there's a Talisker 20, 25 and 30 and 35. So those are like limited releases bottles, and then they do like the standard of Talisker Storm, the Sky, and then they do the Port Rouge, and then they do a couple of duty-free ones as well. All beautiful whiskies, and again, Talisker just doesn't do a bad whiskey. The packaging for this one in particular for a 30-year-old is actually quite humble, for one way of putting it. We reviewed some other whiskies, including 23-year-old Longmorn and other whiskies where the packaging was immaculate. But I'm assuming it has to do with the fact that for a 30-year-old, this is actually really cheap. It goes under $700 in most places. So I rather have a 30-year-old whiskey with a little bit less packaging and being able to afford it a little bit more. Now the whiskey as well, the bottle itself is actually quite unassuming. There we go. It's just a standard Talisker bottle with just the labeling saying 30-year-old. And then, it's 100% aged in American oak. And it's obviously, as we say, Skye is made by the sea. The Talisker is made by the sea is the slogan, because obviously the distillery itself is actually next in front of the ocean. So it gets quite salty, and that's why you get like, Talisker has a massive reputation for having that little like super salty, iodine smoky flavour. There it goes. Awesome. Wow, yeah, that's incredible. That's super salty on the nose, super iodine, but then you get obviously the vanilla notes and the toffee from an American oak. Yeah, that's it. That is delicious. 45 ABV, again, doesn't taste like it. It's really elegant. Dry fruits as well, once you taste it, like a lot more spiciness, but it has a certain elegance and like almost like you feel like you're drinking a gentleman's whiskey, like in front of a fireplace, and just it's a delicious whiskey. So hopefully you enjoyed this episode. We'll see you next time. Slàinte.